Testing, testing, rolling. Does it sound good? Yeah, yeah. Hi guys, how are we today? Yesterday I was on a roll discussing a whole lot of ah, just remembered that I have to start with intensity in order for people that are watching to be more interested. Here we go. I don't fucking care. Today's note is rather detailed, and I wanted to kind of like talk about this. The This is a cyclical thing that kind of like occurs on this channel where I discuss society and our existence in it and how I kind of like see it. And over the past years, I've been like kind of developing thoughts, and you guys are being exposed to them almost on a daily basis. But this one is born out of this world, then introduced to society, then spend our early years rejecting society, then spend our adulthood wanting acceptance from society. It's what I called it is growing out of society to find ourselves. And the best way I could actually like elaborate on it is as human beings, as we grow out of this world, as we're born out of this world, we kind of like are like, yay, it's like flowers when they open up to the sun for the first time. They're like, what the hell is this beauty? And if I'm not mistaken, not mistaken, the first 7 years we're kind of like in that theta brainwave. So we're absorbing everything. And most of us absorb what society contributes because that's where we live. We live within these kind of like within the concept of society and the boundaries of what that thought process is about, right? We see people being nice to each other. We see people being assholes. We see people yelling, upset. We see people standing up straight, saying hi. We see people being formal, informal. We see cars. We see horns. We see laws. We see people in uniforms and all kinds of stuff. It's funny because, like, the more you look at it, the more you realize how mechanical it is. And effectively, if you look at society and you kind of like follow the suits, any of the suits, like if you follow, there are people that contribute to society, and that there are people that contribute to society's support. So society creates its own worker drones that basically support it. And these are police officers, basically social servants, uh, army people, public people. It's the same with companies, right? Because companies are like mini societies because they have like separate cultures for them and they have their different laws and they have their different kind of like protocols and how they would do things. And each company kind of like has its suits, they have their creatives. And all of these are kind of like an interesting combination of how we as human beings always need to fragment to like what's necessary to be done and the people willing to do it. There's a beautiful book written about this. It's called Chismo, surrounded by idiots. And the guy basically describes how we see everyone around us that doesn't understand us as an idiot, but the reality is they're very much a necessity for us to be existing the way we are. And I feel like we created this concept. But we are introduced to society as we are actually evolving. And we have those years where we're kind of like rejecting everything that's imposed on us because we want to basically show the world who we are. And those are basically like early teen years all the way up to like 20s, where we actually enter society. And the fucked up thing is like for the longest time, we are rejecting society until we're adults. And then when we're adults, we realize for us to be surviving, we need to kind of like get society's acceptance. And I think at that point in time, is when we lose ourselves completely. We completely get out of our own space and we allow we succumb, we sell out. That's basically how people explain it. We get to a point where we let go of the things that we held dear and values and all the good stuff. What happens when that occurs? Basically, what effectively we're doing is we're capturing a trend for some drone in society. We're picking up the habits of some drone in society, and we basically wear a certain character. And then from there, we just start, we stop being ourselves because we have to wear something that works in order for society to accept us, in order for us to survive. And at that point, I think it's very crucial because that's when we truly start questioning things. Because we never question anything unless something is off. And we don't really question anything when it comes to ourselves unless we're the ones that made the decision that made things feel off. And slowly but surely, as you kind of like grow up, you start realizing that the things that you've been trying to reject all these years, and you start realizing how you kind of like just play the game long enough until you don't want to play anymore, but you don't know what to do out of it. And that's when you have a choice. The concept of yourself is either destroyed, not sold out. At first, it's sold out, it's still there. So you're destroyed, and you find that peace within you where you're like, I'm okay living this kind of life. I just want to be happy. I just want my kids to grow up. I just want to see my wife happy. I just want to see family. I want to chill with friends. Who the fuck cares? You can make that decision. It's fine. But for some, the decision goes more, if I'm going to be in a state of discomfort, let me be the one choosing the state based on what I want to do, instead of being in a state of discomfort and not me making being the one that's making the choice towards the situation. So ultimately, it's that point in time where we have to kind of like grow out of society in order to start finding ourselves. I don't know if that happens when our hormones start switching around the ages of like 28 to 32, or if it's like one of those midlife, what am I doing as an adult and where am I going in this world? And I have like, I think because my friend had a theory where we measure our actual years, because at first, like, the average human being lives for 70 years, which means every 10 years are about like 13% or 12%, 11 point something percent. So the first 11% is nothing. And then when you're 20, you're like at 20%, it's fine. But then when you hit 30, you're at 40 something percent. And it's beautiful because like you're really getting closer. And after the 50% mark, it feels heavier because like half your life is actually past. So the way you look at it is completely different from I have time, and now it kind of feels like you don't have time. And then the choice is kind of like either you elevate the pace and you start doing things differently, or you accept what you're doing and kind of like refine them, or you stick to a certain tone and just kind of like fill through with them or something beautiful. I don't know. We all get to make our choices in life. But the main concept I'm actually discussing here is how we, as ourselves, kind of are, we are definitely the product of society. And every single thing we do is really, I don't know, it's like unless we actually are born in a cave somewhere alone, then we will probably be able to discover what it truly means to be like human beings. But the truth is, I think the nature of human beings was discovered through society. And it's our engagement with society and all the smaller things that kind of like always interfere with what you want to do as a human being are what truly define who we are. And as we actually evolve through it, we tend to notice the nuances and the things that we could actually control and the things that we don't want to be involved in and the things that we could manage and not really like bother with. And I think at that point in time we're separating ourselves in society. We become people just we really become just observers. As in like society is there, we go, we do what we want and we come back. It's no longer a personal thing for us. It's no longer an actual thing that binds us. Because you start having your own like train of thought. You start having your own plans. You start having your own like, I don't know, I want to say just vision for how you want to see your own life. And society becomes the tool that could support it. And everything that it is, even if it's something that society basically hasn't yet like fully accepted. Through it, it's the land that you can plant, I guess. It's like new technologies as they get accepted, the first 4 years to 8 years, they're always rejected. But it's the random people that are kind of doing it regardless that plant the seed, and eventually society kind of like gets closer to it. And if we think of ourselves this way, because ultimately, like once we figure out who we truly are or accept the fact that we are the way we are, then ultimately everything we're doing when it comes to society, it becomes us utilizing the fact that society exists. It stops becoming a personal existence for us. It starts becoming more of a personal tool. The concept of society is always changing, and depending on how it changes, some people actually do better, some people don't. And ultimately, I can ride the wave either way, or at least that's how I should be thinking. I think that's what we call adults, right? Properly adulting. It's a video